React. So we'll be learning about that. And then we can in the hooks, while we are discussing hooks itself, we'll also be learning about how React, how we can add some custom hooks, how we can like generate and develop some custom hooks in React. So we'll be learning about that. And coming to the state management part in React, we'll be learning about the we'll be taking context API. For that, how like we use context API to create a global store with Redux. React and Redux, think of it as like a two sisters. Like there are these two concepts. Both might be using the same thing, but their application is completely different. Okay, and we'll be learning about that. That's also an important concept, and that would also take 1 or 2 days. And by the end of week one or week two, we'll be creating a whole project, a mini React project, where we'll be using HTML and CSS for the basic front end, and we'll be using React for the whole functionality of the program. There will be some UI, which we might not have some backend for that, but there would be a UI where we can use all the concepts which we have learned till now. Okay, are you clear till now? Am I audible? If someone is speaking, you are on mute.
It's a network issue.
Okay, fine. For week 3 and week 4, we'll be learning about, we'll be completely focusing on backend part. We'll be learning about C# and .NET Core. First, we'll be starting with introduction to C#. We'll be learning about variables, data types, everything, the basic C# programming. Then we'll be moving on to object-oriented programming in C#. We'll also be learning about advanced C# concepts like exception handling, collections, what are the collections in C# and all. Then we'll be moving on to how the .NET Core and MVC works. We'll be learning about how .NET Core is different from .NET Framework. We'll understand the MVC pattern and how we can set up the .NET Core. That's like a basic thing. We'll also be learning about controllers and routing in .NET. We'll also be learning about views and Razor pages, like how the Razor syntax is and how the HTML helpers are in that. And we'll also be learning about there is this in MVC. V stands for views. There would be something called view models and partial views in our report pattern. So we'll be learning about that. We'll be learning about how we can do the page layouts and sections from the backend itself, like from C# for the UI. Okay. We'll also be, you might have known about dependency injection, right? That's like a most important and most basic concept in .NET. We'll be taking time. We'll be learning about the dependency injection and middleware. We'll be understanding how dependency injection works, and what are the basic applications of it. And we'll also be learning about how we can create some custom middleware pipelines and how some custom middleware APIs and all. We'll also be talking about logging and exception handling. After this, we'll be moving on to building REST APIs with .NET Core. First, we'll be learning what and Web API is. We'll be creating some simple web app using REST API. Like as I said, right, there will be CRUD operations. We'll be implementing those CRUD operations using the HTTP GET, HTTP POST, HTTP PUT, HTTP DELETE. These are the 4 things which usually associated with CRUD operation: create, read, update, and delete. We'll be using these 4 things to implement the CRUD operations with Web API. Okay. Then we'll be learning about how authentication and authorization works. What is the main difference between the authentication and authorization? These like some inbuilt concept which we have in .NET. So we'll be learning about those things. And coming to this, as we are already on authentication and authorization, like the security part, we'll be also learning about the API security. There are some CORS policies, cross-origin response, those CORS policies, and there is this API rate limiting and API testing, which will be happening in all these CORS policies and API rate limiting would be happening in a software called Postman. We'll be also testing the APIs in the Postman itself. We can also use Swagger for that. But I widely like use Postman because of it. What can I say? It's like more detail when it comes to the API payloads and all. So I'll be using Postman for that, and we'll be connecting our APIs which we have created right now into our React project, which we might have created by the end of week 2. We'll be connecting those two things, and we'll be fetching data from API in React, and we'll be handling all the API response which are triggered from the UI. Okay. Will be after this we'll be connecting the whole front end and back end part of our projects. Like we'll be integrating them, and we'll be doing some error handling and debugging, because we are not using some monorepo, right? We have created a front end separately, we have created the back end separately, and now we are integrating those two things together. So there would be some bugs which might pop up, and there would be some functionalities which might not work. There would be some, even the API calls also might not happen as we have developed it. So we'll be handling those, and we'll be debugging the whole thing, so that the whole project would be in a shape which we like. Okay. For the last week, for the week 5, we'll be learning about database and entity framework. We'll be learning about SQL Server basics, how the relational databases works, and how we can write basic SQL queries. And then there is a advanced SQL concepts called joins, store procedures, and transactions. So we'll be also be learning about them. Then we'll quickly moving on to entity framework core. Like what's the main difference between the SQL and entity framework core? Entity framework core, it's like when we are working on .NET and C Sharp, we use Entity Framework Core because it is most associated with a C Sharp. So we'll be using that. Will What Entity Framework Core offers is like it's a code first, and as you already, I think you might have having some experience on this. We'll be having some code first and database first approaches. We'll be learning about them, and we'll also be learning about the migrations and database seeding, how the database works, uh, and how we can have the migrations of tables and everything. We'll be learning about that. Then we'll be moving on to how we can use link queries in our entity framework core. And after that we'll be focusing on repository pattern, like how we can implement a repository pattern in the complete EF core environment, and how we can manage the transactions. Like transactions usually means managing things like updating, deleting, and editing those things. We'll be talking about that. Then we'll be talking about performance optimization in EF core. The lazy loading, there are these two concepts called lazy loading and eager loading. We'll be learning about them. We'll be understanding how both things work, so we can use the uh, better thing when you are developing a project, or when you are working on a real-time project. Okay. We'll also be learning about indexing and caching. That's like a basic concept in SQL, which is there in EF core also. So there are some different main difference between those two. So we'll be learning about those. And on the week 6, we'll be having as I said, right, we'll be integrating everything into a single part. We'll be hosting a web API on Azure. We'll use the Azure app services, and we'll host the React app which we have developed on Azure. We'll set up the pipelines. We'll we'll use Docker for the whole containerization of our project. We'll set up the CI/CD pipelines with an app called GitHub Actions. We'll do everything, and we'll make our project which we have developed go live. Okay. This the whole. 1 second. Give me 1 second. This is the whole roadmap which we usually take, which we usually follow for all the batches. But what I can assure you is like regarding after seeing your experience and how you have worked on things, you might not take this much time. Like 45 days, I won't say, like it's just not that much feasible. We'll be concising this into 30 days roadmap. We'll be talking about everything from basics. Will be I This won't be like a teaching process. This would be a revising process for you. As you might have learned, as you said, you have already learned things, and you I think you are much confident in everything. So I won't be teaching you everything like how I teach it to some freshers or recently passed out people. I'll be taking all concepts. I'll revise it with you, and will what I'll do is like I am not sure like how much time can you spend for practicing the things which I have told, or practicing the things which like I have explained, the concepts.
Yes, I have time every day from the afternoon, 2 o'clock to evening. I can practice in that time, like in working hours,
Like how many
for my
hours can you spend on this for practicing?
at least 6 to 7 hours.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So we'll be having a discussion every day for an hour. We'll be having, don't think of it as like a teaching session. We'll be having a discussion. I'll be explaining you some things which are like you might have already know, but I'll make you revise those things, and I'll give you some call it as a homework. Okay, I might give you something on whatever the concepts we have talked about on that day. I'll give you some work which you need to do on your own, so that you would take your time, you would practice everything. So that's how the whole revision works. Okay, you will be if we follow this kind of approach, you'll be confident, and you'll be well versed in all the things. What I understood is like you know the concepts, you know, like you already worked on things. You might have lost the grip or missed the flow. So we'll be getting back that grip, and you will be putting you in the flow. Okay, these 30 days would be enough for this whole thing. So we'll be having a discussion every day for a 50 to 60 minutes, and I'll be giving you some tasks which you need to practice. You can show that task to me on the class next day. We'll be talking about that, like what are the difficulties you might have faced while creating that task, or like doing the thing work which I have given you. You'll be completing that, then we'll be moving on to some next concepts. I can assure you that we'll be starting from the basics itself, but there is no I what I understood is that there is no need of pinpointing everything and reading in between the lines. We can just follow the lines over here. You'll be well and good, as you have worked on that. You have hands-on experience. That's a great thing, actually. Okay, that's all from my end. If you have any doubts, and if there is any uh, doubts regarding the whole roadmap, you can ask right away.
Yes, so whatever the roadmap is clear, going from front end, back end, and database and deployment also. And
Yeah.
you are using only one cloud here, Azure only.
Yes, we are using Azure.
Okay, that's great. And moreover, the approach is first we need to go with the front end part,
Yes, correct.
yes, not a database part.
Yes.
Usually, everyone goes with the database part. Like database is a main for the any development or anything
What?
else. Database is a main for they are going with the SQL server.
Yes.
First, like firstly, they are going to explain all the database, and later they will go to middleware. That flow is different, and
Yes.
this might be also good. Like developing first front end part is good.
The thing which why we chose this over the traditional first like teaching the back end first, will be actually we used to have lot of fresher students like who got just passed out, or who just got
Yes,
placed in something, and who are just in training phase on in their life. I don't want to confuse them or scare them using the biggest like that's a more database, as you said, is like a most important and main concept, right? I don't want to put that first and scare them away. Like they might be feeling, oh, this is the whole thing. This is how the whole thing would be, and they would be not that much confident. So I usually start with some basic concept, the HTML and CSS, which they might have also knowing beforehand. So I'll be starting with that, so there would be a confidence for them, and I would also understand how uh, how well versed they are and how easily they can grasp some things. So I'll be taking slow first, and we'll be picking up some pace and we'll be completing.
Yes, yes. Actually, it is good for them. Whenever I was going with the database, I have faced also issues like
Mhm.
first time when I was learning. Actually, this approach is good.
Yes.
Okay.